Hey guys, we're here for another episode of The Watchtower. It's been a while since we've done one of these, but this time we are reviewing the film Joker with a special guest, Joker. All right, you know Joker as the mod from the CC. So, hey Joker, say hi.
Hello, guys. How you doing?
All right. So what we're going to do right now is we are going right into our general thoughts and reviews of the movie. But before we get into that, just a disclaimer for anyone who hasn't already seen Joker and doesn't want to be spoiled on it. This is your warning. Tune out now. We're not going to try and get too far into the spoilers, but if we do, so be it. All right. So first of all, general thoughts and let's say a rating.
You're fading out there again. I'm sorry.
Fading in and out again. All right, I'm gonna try and stay closer to my mic. All right. So first of all, general thoughts out of 10, let's say, a rating out of 10. So what do you think, Joker?
I'll be fair about it, and I'm not going to score it a full on 10, but I'd say like maybe an 8.5 or an 8.
Okay. All right. All right. Good rating. So I would have actually went even higher personally. I liked it a lot, so I would have sent like maybe a 9. 9.5 and 10, like I've seen those ratings and it's hard to justify it, right? It's when you get to that like super high scale, you got to be, really picky. I wasn't super picky, but I was blown away still, so I'd give it a 9.
All right.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it, but
Mm-hmm.
In comparison to the comic Joker and all the different people that have portrayed him, that goes into my scoring of it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, let's go right into it.
ahead.
So, no, you started first with the 8.5, so let us know how does that sort of factor in for you?
Well, if you're a fan of the comic books and the comic iteration of the Joker, you have some high expectations of the film, and you see this character portrayed a certain way, and you expect the extravagant kills and the gimmicky weapons and the gases, poison people and then choke them out, have them laughing to death. None of that's in the film.
Yep.
It's a very realistic take of the Joker, and the psychology behind is what really sells it. The whole character study of Arthur Fleck, the Joker, and obviously building up and bringing you through that whole roller coaster ordeal, beginning.
Right.
It's very faithful to a interpretation of what makes this character crack, what brings a normal person to go on and do the things that the Joker does. So in that sense, it's very true to roots.
All right, fair enough. So in terms of a character origin, so you're saying that it's very true to the development of Arthur Fleck as becoming the Joker, is what you're saying, right?
Yes. You read the comics, and there are multiple origins for this character. And what's beautiful about this film is this can just be one of those possible origins for him as he's interpreted.
That's fair. Do you think that opens the door for other versions, or do you think that WB is going to take this character and run with it? Maybe we'll see Batman and him face off.
I was just looking not too long ago about them possibly doing a sequel. I wouldn't be surprised
I heard about
if
that.
you had a sequel that might even be another retelling of his origin, or a completely different version of him, still played by Phoenix, but just something else that kind of throws you off of what's going on.
Right. I do remember Joaquin Phoenix saying if there's another one in development, he's completely on board with it. So that's good to know. I mean, let's get into Joaquin Phoenix a bit then. So in terms of Phoenix's portrayal of the character, and I guess you're really happy with that. But in terms of him as an actor, if we get into it a little bit deeply, what can you say about that?
Phoenix, in this particular part, he's a character actor. He gets into his roles and he takes that role home with him. He'll do the spontaneous laughter that does off screen, just to throw people off and see how it affects him when people are looking at him like he's a little crazed or something's wrong with him. And he'll lock himself like a recluse for the role. He gets very, very into his parts, and you can obviously see just from the weight loss, how extreme he's willing to go for a part.
Right.
So he's an excellent he was an excellent choice for the film.
Yeah, that scene where he was watching TV with his mother, and he's like shirtless, and then he's kind of like stretching back on the couch. You could really see how far he went with that, right? In terms of his regiment. So
Yeah.
that reminded me a lot of Christian Bale in The Mechanic. If you ever watched that movie,
Yes, sir.
yeah. So that reminded me of how extreme some of these character actors can go, and he reminded me a lot of that. And then speaking of Christian Bale, the next movie right after, he turned around and became the Batman.
It would have been
Yeah,
nice to see the two of them together.
yeah, right. Anyways, so that'd have been strange. So in a perfect world, you have Christian Bale's Batman and Joaquin Phoenix's Joker face off. It's a bunch of like crazies going at it, method actors, so to speak, right?
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
But what's just cool too is De Niro is as well in the film, and
Yeah, go ahead.
He was one of the first actors pretty much known for doing that. From The Raging Bull, if you ever watch that movie, he goes from very well physically fit, and the end of the film, where they're showing his later,
Yeah,
a fat slob, and he put on the weight and lost the weight and put on the weight just for the filming of that one. And
yeah, fair enough.
Insane.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, when we take a look at these characters now, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix, to me, as you said already, as a method actor, he takes his role home with him, and he really gets into it, and it shows. So I think for me, it was a slam dunk in terms of acting. So on the acting side, that I would give it a 10.
Absolutely.
That's why to me, and checking off all the boxes in every category, it's hard to get into all 10s, which is why I'm sitting at 9. Most of it was great. Like this. Now let's get into another part of it. Let's say the soundtrack. What did you think of the music?
It was a good mix of tunes from the 80s and 70s, and it really helped add to the atmosphere of the film. I know there was some controversy to him dancing off to Gary Glitter at the end, but I remember going to baseball games and hearing Gary Glitter all the time, and I don't think that's a negative for the film. I think people were reading too far into it.
Yeah.
And it's
you gotta let that go a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the music was on par. It set the beats were right, like the melodies, and sort of like it got you into the scene. You were really in the movie at that point, right? So I think that really helped set the tone.
Right.
So I was really happy with the music. I would have given it maybe that part out of 10. I'd give it a 9. It wasn't perfect, as you said. So but it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Then we get into something like the screenplay, for example, the overall writing of the script and how everything sort of pieced together. What do you think of the story?
I thought the story was great. I don't know if we can get into some of the bits of spoilers in this part here.
Sure, go for it.
The bit with Thomas Wayne, as an avid comic reader, threw me off. That he's mocking those that are envious of the rich, calling them clowns. You go into comic books, you go into movies and cartoons. Thomas Wayne is such a good guy to the poor and downtrodden. Right. That it was a twist that just kind of threw me off. Why use him as this elitist scumbag, basically, when you've seen nothing but the contrary everywhere else? So that had me. Go ahead.
No, so I was wondering, is that a question of directors taking creative liberty, or is that the writers, or is that really how we actually don't know all that much about Thomas Wayne, right? Maybe he was this very righteous guy on the surface, but then maybe in the background he was actually this big douchebag.
Right, so. But I don't know. And then again, it could just be. It could have just been Joker's interpretation of what the man was, because so much of the film leads you to believe.
Oh
this
yeah,
is all in his head.
And very much so.
His girlfriend, for example, is a extreme example, or clue as to, hey, not everything's right in this film. You can't believe what you're seeing.
Yeah, it gives you sort of like this weird Inception vibe near the end of the movie. So when you're like, oh, none of that actually happened.
Right.
But, so then, speaking of that, actually, how did you feel in terms of like the sort of cinematography and how they put those sort of scenes together?
I thought it was extremely well done. I don't know if you ever seen Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing right now. Give me very Vanilla Sky vibe.
Yep. Yeah. It was very much like a lucid dream, and
Yeah.
that's the icing on the top there that I thought made this a solid movie for me as a Joker movie, because everything that you just
Hmm.
watched is open to interpretation, his interpretation. You don't
Right.
necessarily know his origin. It could have just been one of many, the whole multiple choice thing that he had in The Killing Joke.
Right. So I mean, that gets I mean, when you're thinking about all of that stuff, right? Now, when you think about how they piece it together, the thing that I liked about it in terms of cinematography is that you really were believing up until a certain point, right? Like, oh, he's a normal guy. He's got a girlfriend. He's doing this. He's doing that. And then you realize it's all in his head, and this guy is whacked out of his gourd. So how they were able to transition from that so fluidly, like you didn't even notice there was a transition. Oh, whoa, what's going on here, right?
Yeah.
So that to me was the was what took it home for me. I would have given that like a perfect 10 if it wasn't for like a couple of scenes where I thought the the overall cinematography kind of felt shaky in certain scenes. Like it wasn't perfect. It looked a little bit like on a low budget film, and it is actually a very low budget film for the money that it's making, right? You wouldn't think
Well, I
otherwise,
think I think
but
they went that route
mhm.
just to capture that realism of the time period of the 80s.
Yep. Hmm.
You know, I think if they went with flashier cinematography and better fading effects, or
Hmm.
any of that, it would have lost that appeal that this film might have been made in the 80s.
Definitely. That's something I didn't consider. So maybe that would actually change my rating on that. I'd be closer to like a 9.5 then overall.
There
All
you go.
right. That's a good interpretation, like all things considered, right? Um, I mean, now on the topic of cinematography and film, now there was a thing a while back with Martin Scorsese, how he went off on superhero movies, saying how superhero movies aren't film, and then
Right,
you get the Joker.
right, right.
Right? And what is that overall? Is that him like giving the finger to like the rest of the superhero franchises, or what's that about? What do you think?
I'm sorry, you had a little cut off in the beginning. That
Oh,
who are you speaking about? Todd Phillips or
sorry,
Scorsese?
Scorsese.
Scorsese.
Yeah.
I think that he looks at the whole aspect of you make a whole bunch of sequels, like how the Marvel universe all tied into leading up to
Mm-hmm.
Infinity War and Endgame. That
Mm-hmm.
I think he looks at a film and he's like, you should just be doing one solid film that gets all your story wrapped up all together and sends your message, instead of trying to make a franchise of films to
Mm-hmm.
keep on cashing in on the same idea.
Okay.
Uh, it's like you take Batman. Once you get the
Mm-hmm.
story of Thomas Wayne lost his parents, goes after vengeance and justice as the Batman to protect Gotham. You're really now just kind of repeating that same story over and over again. Loss, justice, vengeance, so on and so forth. That's your main point to Batman.
Right.
What's your point of your sequel? What are you
Right.
what are you telling us? What are you telling us new about this character that we don't already know?
Fair enough.
I think that's a little bit of how Scorsese looks at it.
So he's saying you're not bringing anything new to the table if you're following the same formula all the time.
Right. I mean, I don't think he necessarily has issues with, say, one Batman film, one Superman film,
Mm-hmm.
one Captain America film. But once you start hitting into the sequels, he's saying, what's the point?
Fair enough. Okay, that's a very good interpretation of what he was saying then. All right. Well, like moving away from that, let's think about the movie in terms of things we liked and disliked. So let's pick a couple of scenes that maybe these scenes were scenes that we really it really grabbed us, and then scenes like, oh, they could have done better here. So what are your the scenes that you liked?
Sorry, lost you completely on that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my internet's cutting in and out again. I was saying about the scenes that you liked and the scenes that you disliked. So scenes that really grabbed your attention, that really, oh, that one really touched me, and then scenes where they could have done better here. I would have done this differently, for example. So what about scenes? What are scenes that you liked?
I think my favorite in there to capture his feelings and kind of sum up the most compassion you can have for him is where he's watching the host on TV bashing him, and you just see
Mm-hmm.
that that feeling of hope and possibility of he's going to get a good review or something just completely sink and drop
Hmm.
his spirits. And the way he portrayed that facially, yeah, I felt it. It really really got me.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
as
Yeah. Go ahead.
as far as things that I would like to have seen better. Yeah, I'm very visual with it, so
Hmm.
just the actual look of him. I would have liked a more traditional Joker face, more
Hmm.
traditional Joker suit. Um, I get they were trying to go with their own route with it, and you know uh, have their own Joker. Like you look at Heath Ledger and Leto, they all have their own unique style and look to. Um, but I just for once would have liked to see that traditional look. I was really hoping Phoenix had it. To me,
Yeah.
outside of makeup, he facially looks great.
Right. So actually, I was going to touch on the same thing for something I would have done better in terms of visuals would have been sort of a more traditional looking suit or more traditional looking face. But then part to the face, the whole makeup thing. Now, as far as I know, most of Joker's origins will say that the reason why his face is white isn't just because of makeup; it's because he fell into acid, right? And that's sort of part of his sort of insanity is due to the acid that he fell into at Wayne Tech, right?
Well, origin wise, the acid is actually antipsychotics, and
Oh, okay.
if you really look deep and hard into the origins of his character in comics, he's labeled more, and you can read it more in the '80s comics as being super sane rather than
Oh.
being insane. He's well, the concept is this: when somebody's insane, they're not aware of it.
Okay.
Joker is actually aware he's mad,
Okay.
and the game he plays with Batman and everything else like that, it's hinted that it's what he does to keep himself grounded or sane, or from even killing himself from whatever tragedy that he's befallen.
I see. Hmm. Wow. I didn't actually know that. So, well, there you go. Learn something new every day. But what I was getting at in terms of the discoloration, maybe this is from the animated series that I'm thinking of. But him and Harley Quinn, they both have the same sort of like white coloration. I thought it was due to like sort of that chemical spill or that chemical
oh,
incident.
oh, I'm not saying it isn't. It definitely
Oh,
is.
okay. Oh, okay.
I'm
All
just
right.
saying, it being interpreted as acid was
Oh,
initially the case, and it's been later retconned that it was acid, but it was also a mix of antipsychotics and this and
so he's
that.
actually super tame. He's super sane. He's so sane. He's saner than regular people that he knows
In
how insane he
in
is.
a sense, but his origin goes all over the place as you read
Mm,
on in the
mm.
decades. One goes into say, I'm sorry, I can't remember the specific name for it, but it's a derivative of the Lazarus pit that Ra's al Ghul fell into, and
Mm,
that it's also
mhm.
granted him immortality, and
Yeah,
it goes all over. But that's more of a rebirth concept that's
right.
out now.
Which gives you more of a tie-in with like Red Hood later on. But
Yeah.
yeah, spoiler alert on that. But in terms of what's his name? I mean, so Joker's suit and his sort of like what we consider traditional look. Maybe they could take that into the spin-off or into the sequel, right? So
That's kind
if
of what I'm
Mhm.
expecting. I'm expecting a sequel to have a fresh new look to him, and it may not be the traditional sense. It might be a completely brand new look. They can go anywhere they want with it. Um,
Okay,
he might
that's
be
in.
bleached. He might have a permanent smile. He might have facial scars. I can see them kind of going anywhere with it.
Yeah, I mean, right when I was thinking about it, now that you mention it, he he has this sort of very particular humanized look right now because he's still just normal guy, just a black, just sort of like a little bit deranged. But then where do they take him from here is where I'm thinking of. And on that note, let's compare Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in this movie to other Jokers. I mean, did you
Okay,
have any favorites before this one?
lost you again. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was saying, do you have any favorites before this film? Do you have any favorite Jokers? Favorite actors that portrayed Joker?
I'm very harsh when it comes to this. I'm a big
Mhm.
fan of them, and
That's fair.
I'd say in cinema alone, I really don't think a Joker uh, performance. Jack Nicholson in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I love Nicholson. He's great,
Mm-hmm.
but every
Mm-hmm.
time you watch Nicholson, he is playing himself. He
Fair
he's
enough.
not much of an actor. You go from that to something as cutesy as Terms of Endearment to Witches of Eastwick. It's Jack Nicholson. He is the same guy over and over again. He's just wearing purple and has a smile on his
All right.
face. Cesar Romero, he was playing a slapstick mock up of the Batman show. I mean, it wasn't meant to be
Mm-hmm.
taken seriously. You're supposed to laugh at it.
Yeah. Right.
He did a great job. He refused to shave his mustache and everything else. But yeah, it was campy. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't take that performance seriously either. Uh, Ledger, I wasn't a fan of it. I think the writing is what people liked about his performance. The
Mm-hmm.
slamming of the eyeball into the pencil and
Mm-hmm.
um, all the neat little trickery that Joker did throughout that movie. I think people were sold on how that was written.
Yeah.
Um, as far as his performance itself, I didn't like it. He was hunched. He was whiny. Uh, he didn't have much passion in his eyes and the lines. To me, he was very drugged up, and I didn't
Yeah.
like it.
All right.
Leto, I won't even touch on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I wasn't gonna mention
Garbage.
it. Yeah. And he's the one complaining and saying how he should have gotten this role in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Off
I
live
don't think
action,
so.
Mark
Hmm.
Hamill is my favorite. He does the voice
Yeah, I was gonna say.
perfectly.
Yep, I
Um,
was gonna say
you,
that. Hmm.
you take the Arkham games. I think that's the peak you could find him in because that
Hmm.
Joker is 100% lethal. The CGI that they use to create the face is dead on to the comic. I mean,
Yeah.
that is the comic coming to life, and it's
Right.
beautiful.
Like the Killing Joke, Mark Hamill's Joker. That was my favorite Joker to date. And I was gonna say if Mark Hamill could lose some weight and was maybe a couple inches taller, he would have been perfect.
There's a
Right?
lot of actors that I would have cast for him. Phoenix is a great one. I think he
Yeah.
he pulled off that laugh pretty good. Yeah,
Hmm.
he wasn't reaching to completely copy Hamill, obviously, but
Hmm.
I think if he wanted to, he could have.
Fair enough, right? But I mean, you know what? I mean, I think overall we're on the same page here. The movie was great. If you guys haven't already, go out and watch it if it's still in theaters. Otherwise, wait till it's out on digital or on DVD or Blu-ray and go and watch it. It's really worth your time.
Definitely.
I mean, there are some harsh critics out there who are saying, it's not for everybody, and I could see that because it is sort of this movie that sort of picks up on a very sensitive topic. I remember reading about this in Japanese news house saying they're worried that there are a lot of people who are sort of borderline like Joaquin Phoenix's character in like Arthur Fleck in this film, and people who would go, those people, if they went to the theaters to watch this, it might trigger something in them. And the Japanese government was actually worried about all these psychopaths emerging all of a sudden, right?
Yeah,
But I mean, that is true with anything though these days, right? Like people will blame video games, people will blame like whatever they want, really. So you can't really just say that and not watch the movie for that reason. You're sort of like depriving yourself of great cinema.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, Alfred Hitchcock when he did the film Psycho,
Oh
he was
yeah.
approached.
Mm-hmm.
He was
Mm-hmm.
approached shortly after, and some policemen or I'm not sure exactly what official it was that came up to him had said that they just captured a man and said that he killed his third victim because of Psycho. And
Wow.
Hitchcock turned around and said, "Well, what made him kill the first two?"
Fair enough. All right, that's a good leaving point, I guess, on brand for this movie. So, um, if you guys haven't already, you guys who are patrons to the WRL broadcast might also notice that you have ringtones available, and one of the ringtones there is Joker's laugh that our CC moderator here has recorded for us before. So why don't we leave off on the Joker laugh for the end of this show, if you can. I'll put you on the spot here.
Oh no, I can't go. Sorry, but I can't do it today.
No, not feeling
No,
it.
I'm actually sick.
Oh, okay. All right. No worries. All right.
I'm very
Well,
sorry, guys. I will make it up to you.
okay. What I'll do is I'll try and clip in that ringtone at the end of the show. That way, you guys, even if you're not a member, or not a patron rather, you can still have access to that and listen to how that was. That was actually originally from one of the We Are Legends broadcasts. I think it was the first time you were on with them, right?
Yeah.
So,
I was getting to the whole thing, trying to do the voice and whatnot.
oh, I do remember that. Yeah. All right, so I guess we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for being on the show, Joker.
Thank you. It was great.
All right, have a good one. See ya.
Hey everyone, it's Tootytron. Thank you for listening to the WROL broadcasts. If you like the show, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/WROL broadcasts. We gotta go though, because Lute said he's gonna buy me a Rebirth Blue Beetle if I babysit his 12 kids. See ya.